everyone, and welcome back to Fighter Tess podcast with me, Tess, and my husband and co-host, Terry.
I've made it to another episode, so I'm quite happy.
So last week we spoke about my journey leading up into my PH diagnosis. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what it was like and how I felt and, the general feelings of being diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension.
So we left off last episode with you being diagnosed with PH.
I was diagnosed at the Royal Brompton Hospital. I was already a patient with them as I was under the respiratory team from the age of 7 years old.
So you were never involved in the Children's Hospital with PH. What would the experience be like different from you then?
I was under the paediatric care from 7 years old with the respiratory team as they thought I had asthma. When I got diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension, I went straight into adult care. So when you're a child, you usually have a transition into adult care because there is a big difference. You are treated differently, but when I got diagnosed, I was just taken straight into adult care as I had to be looked after by the correct team. So I never did have a transitioning period, which I believe is very important to anyone who's a child going into an adult.
So you were diagnosed as an adult. Were you by yourself in the room with just the doctor, or was your family involved?
I was on a ward when I was diagnosed, and I had doctors and my mum and dad with me. We had a curtain pulled round us, as you do in a ward, to have privacy, and that's when we got my diagnosis. Because knowing that I didn't have asthma and it was actually pulmonary hypertension, it made it quite difficult to accept.
Did it help having your parents with you when you got told this awful news?
It's very important to have family, parents, close ones with you at the time of a big diagnosis because they can be there to support you and help you to take in the information that's just been told to you. Because having a diagnosis of something so major does take its toll and you can't understand all aspects of it. So with people there beside you, they too can understand what's going on and help you get through the difficult times.
So what tests did you have to go through now you were diagnosed?
So the major test that I had was the right heart catheter, where they put a tube from your groin up to your heart, and that will test the pressures in your heart. But I did get a Ferrero Rocher at the end for being brave, so I was very happy about that.
So with the Royal Brompton Hospital, it's one of those few hospitals in the UK that have nurse specialists. Can you tell me what a nurse specialist is? And then did you meet them?
A PH nurse specialist is someone who isn't a consultant but specialises in pulmonary hypertension. So they know all the ins and outs of what pulmonary hypertension is and how it's going to affect your life. I was very, very lucky to have very good pulmonary hypertension specialist nurses in my care, and I will talk about this more in future episodes. But for now, a big shout out to my lovely Carl and Lisa, who were very involved at the beginning of my care when I got diagnosed with PH. And to Carl Still, who is still with me, lucky old Carl, and Eva and Stuart. Thank you for everything so far.
So tomorrow we're going down to the hospital. Does it feel a bit different going there after so many years now than when you first went there?
Yes, definitely, because everyone knows who I am.
Popular over here. So what were the first things you had to change in your life?
I had to give up playing the trumpet. I didn't stop going to college. I went back to college, passed my A-levels, got into university. So I was pretty determined with my future life and that it wasn't going to be affected by pulmonary hypertension. It could easily have been affected and I could easily have said, right, that's it, I'm going to just live by my PH. But from the minute I got diagnosed, I knew I was going to be determined to live life to the full. I guess when you are diagnosed at the age of 17, you have so many things that you thought would happen as you grow older. And just because you get diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension, I wanted to make sure that these thoughts and dreams were still going to happen. Yes, it might not be the way I thought, but whatever it took, they were going to come true.
So after the hospital, you decided to go back home, I assume. And when you got home, did you have to change your lifestyle to match your new condition?
I had to grow up fast. The reason is because living with pulmonary hypertension, I had to learn how to live with a chronic condition. I had to learn what I could do, what I couldn't do, how to pace myself, and know when enough is enough and when to stop. Yes, I do still push myself. A lot of people would tell me that. Sometimes you have to push yourself, but rest the next day. Don't forget to rest the next day, for sure.
Good advice.
I did learn very fast that if I was busy one day, the following day I would have to rest. I couldn't force my body to do something or make it do something that it couldn't, and I had to learn that very quickly.
It feels to me this condition's quite lonely. Did you have any community help? Or, not friends, but what I'm trying to say, did you make new friends because of this condition?
When I got diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension, none of us knew what it was. We'd never heard of it before, and like many families, we went on Dr. Google and scared the life out of ourselves. So yes, it was quite a frightening time, and we thought, yes, that's it, I'm going to die, there's no future for me. And it did take me a while to get into knowing people with pulmonary hypertension. It was around that time Facebook had only just started, people were getting more and more into it. There wasn't the Facebook groups that there are now for people to support. I hadn't really heard of the PHA UK, who are our PH charity, so I kind of got on with life by myself when it came to pulmonary hypertension. It wasn't until, I can't really remember the first time I met someone with pulmonary hypertension. The only clear vivid time is when I went to a PHA UK conference. I met others with PH, and to be honest, I felt like I was part of a really big supportive community.
So going back to education, how do you decide which university was the best for you?
When it came to choosing universities, obviously PH was at the forefront. Well, first of all, I'd already chosen what I was going to do, and that was music, a degree in music. So I wanted to find a university that was one of the top 10 in the UK for music. And then my second decision was to find out if it was accessible. Now, this meant that it wasn't on top of a large hill that I had to climb up every day, or there were loads of stairs to all my lectures, or the halls were more than an hour away from the campus. I had to really take in everything that I could to make sure it ticked every box.
Like how cheap the drinks were, I assume?
That was also a bonus. But when we were looking around the universities, I had to make sure of the following for me, and that was a campus university. So everything was in one place on the campus. Second one is that my lectures were all in the same building, and I didn't have to walk far from lecture to lecture. Another reason was the halls weren't too far away. I knew second and third year we could rent a house, so when it came to the time for looking for houses, I had to make sure the house that I was going to live in was very close to the university. Now, I made my top 3 decisions. They were Goldsmiths, Southampton and Royal Holloway. These 3 universities ticked my boxes for accessibility and for being strong in music. I got into all 3 universities, luckily, but my final decision was Southampton. Now, Southampton, for us, is a good 3 hours drive away, so I wasn't going to be close to my parents at all, and this was going to be a big step for me. I knew that I was going to have a new life on my own, and I had to be able to live with pulmonary hypertension without any support around me. I gained friends very quickly and told them about pulmonary hypertension, and they're still my closest friends now. So whilst down in Southampton and having all the support that I did, it made my experience the best experience a university student could have.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun for university. It's quite annoying that you have to choose university that suits all your needs, not just academically, but for your health. It worked out quite well, hasn't it?
Yes, definitely. And for those who are thinking of going to university, then have a real think of what's best for you. Not for others, but for you. You are the one that has pulmonary hypertension, and you need to put yourself first. So if you enjoyed what we were speaking about today, if you have any questions, as always, please do get in touch via my social media, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, or by emailing us directly at fightertestpodcast@gmail.com. We hope to see you in the next podcast. Cheerio!
Thank you. See you later.